It is my pleasure to introduce Bryden Eckert. She is the Client Success Specialist with Intellus Learning, who's going to be leading our webinar today and showing you all of the new and exciting improvements. So thank you again so much for joining us, and Bryden, take it away.
Great, thanks so much. Liz, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Fantastic, thanks again. Well, good morning to some folks, good afternoon to others. As Liz mentioned, my name is Bryden. Hopefully there might be some familiar voices on the call here today. I work with a number of different folks that are using the platform, and so I'm really excited to have this opportunity to walk you through some of the updates that we're making to the user interface and functionality of Intellus. As Liz mentioned, these are set to go live in early November, and we will send out a release notes email once the dates are confirmed that details all of this information. And so to provide you a little bit of background, our product team has been interviewing folks like yourself, users of the platform, to get a sense of what is working and what isn't working so well. And so these changes that we're going to be demonstrating today are based on the feedback that we've received. Primarily, what I wanted to kind of situate the changes in is based on this workflow. So if you've been in Intellus and you've worked through the platform and created some courses, this top line right here should be relatively familiar to you. This is kind of the 6-step workflow that our platform is currently based on. These first 3 steps, the details, learning objectives, and course structure, are all about kind of creating the course structure, creating the course itself and making sure you have an order in which you can provide to the resources. Whereas the second part, the curate, organize, and publish, are all about filling in that course structure with materials and content and publishing them to the student. For this release that's coming up in early November, we are tackling ways to make this process, this course creation process, a little bit more efficient. So in just a moment, I'm going to jump into another tab to show you the prototype. But what will essentially happen is we've created an additional workflow that will help make this process a little bit more efficient. And at the end, it'll jump you right back into this curate screen where you'll be able to curate and find content for you to publish to your students. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into another tab. Just as a preface, I just want to say that this is a prototype, a wireframe. This is not exactly what the live updates will look like. For example, there might be some areas that might not be fully built out at this point. So I just don't want to cause any alarm if you don't see something that you're familiar with, because this is just a prototype and a demo, not necessarily exactly what the live version will look like. But the home page will stay the same. All of your familiar tabs up here, your courses, explore and analyze. Nothing has changed here. So this should, again, all look pretty familiar to those of you who are familiar with the platform. But where the changes will start is once you click the Create a Course or Lesson button. The good news is nothing is going away. So the option to create a just-in-time lesson using topic, to build out a course using course structure using a textbook, to create a course from scratch with the syllabus, or create a course using an existing course, those are all still there. What's new, however, is this guided setup option. And so as you can see here, what we'll be asking is just a simple set of questions to help make that course setup or course creation process a little more simple. So since these top 4 you're familiar with, I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate this guided setup. So I will click Select. And this will take you to a new landing page for this guided setup process. So as you can see here, you'll see that we'll be asking basically 3 questions. We'll be asking for your course information. We'll be asking for the number of lessons that you would like to include or sections of your course. And then we'll also be asking for the topic. So this is, again, kind of simplifying and streamlining that course setup process. So I'll go ahead and click Continue. And so now this is asking, what is your course title, essentially? So for this demonstration, it's a statistics. So I'm just going to type in Intro to Statistics as my course title. I will go ahead and click continue. And so now it's asking about disciplines. So we've tried to find a way to better organize the different disciplines and subjects available within the platform. So this is, there's two ways to search, to walk through this process. So one is to simply search. So similar to the other search functionalities throughout the platform, you can start typing. And again, this is not a fully built out list, so please don't be alarmed here, but I can select the topic that I'm looking for, the subject that I'm looking for, and I can click on that, and then I can click search, and that will find its way over to the specific discipline that I'm looking for, and you can see that it's been selected by this purple check mark. Other than searching, if you'd rather click through the different overarching schools of thought, or if you can think about this as ways that your institution may organize their colleges or schools, you can click through this way as well. So if I may want to select social sciences, I'm then populated with a number of different departments. I may select communication, and then I've got some different sub-disciplines within that field. So I can click that. Again, you can see that it's selected by this check mark. I'm actually going to go back to statistics. I can search, again, I'm just going to search here. So the functionality stays the same. You can, again, narrow things down based on the subject matters that you are interested in. So I'm going to take a quick pause here to see if there are any questions about what I've been demonstrating thus far.
All right, I'm taking a look. And again, feel free to use the question field or the chat field, whatever makes you happiest. Okay, it looks like we're good. You can go on.
Okay, well, good. I'm hoping this feels pretty useful to you all, and maybe that's why you don't have any questions. So I'll at least keep pretending that way for the time being. So once I've selected the discipline that I'd like to search for topics in, I will click continue. And now it's asking how many lessons does your course have. So this is, if you've sat through a demo with me before, this is what I like to call how many buckets, how many sections of the course, how do you want to organize those course materials into ways in which your students will be able to utilize the materials in a useful fashion. So a lot of folks will use this by weeks. I'm going to go ahead and type in 8, but this can be any number that you'd like. Again, this is creating the number of buckets that you will ultimately be putting your content into. So then I will click continue after I've entered in the number of lessons. And then you're introduced to a very new looking page. So I just want to walk through the outline of where different things are on this page. So this middle section where it says set up your lessons, this is simply providing some instructions on how to utilize this part of this guided setup. Your course, as you can see over here, this is where all of your lessons are built out. So you have your lesson 1, lesson 2, all the way down to lesson 8, based on the number that you provided on the previous question. And then over here is where you'll be assigning the topics that apply to the lessons for each given week, for example. So I will say for this release, we are focusing on the copying topics from textbook chapters. The other 2 items here, that's copying topics from our topic list as well as from existing collections, those will be available within the next release that we'll be having in November. So I just wanted to demonstrate the textbook topics here. So I'll go ahead and click this first option. And as you can see, based on the subject that I picked, because I picked statistics, it's pre-populating some textbooks that are also tied to that discipline. I can also search for, as you can see, title, author, or ISBN. If none of the textbooks within this first example are fitting the needs that I have. But if I do find a textbook that I'm interested in, I can click on either the title or the thumbnail. And this will expand the list of topics and chapters. So once again, with this workflow and throughout Intellus, we use textbooks as a guide. We're not copying in any materials from the textbooks, but we are utilizing the structure and the topics that are tied to individual chapters. So that's what you're seeing here. So for example, chapter 1 in this textbook is statistics, data, and statistical thinking. And if that's something that I want to utilize in my course, I can simply click on it. You can see that the fist is now closed, and then I can drag it to the lesson I want to apply that to. Similar to the other drag and drop functionality we have in the system, I can apply that textbook chapter topic to multiple lessons, and I can also apply multiple topics to a single lesson. So you can see that I can build out, again, I'm just clicking, dragging, and dropping. If I wanted to pull in different kinds of materials from different textbooks, I can also do so from here. I can click on the textbook again. Maybe I'm interested in adding variables. Oops. Click, drag, and drop. I can continue to, again, kind of add and edit the things. If I wanted to delete anything, I could just click this X, and that will delete the resource. So again, it's a pretty standard drag and drop functionality for a lot of web-based platforms. And so you can manipulate this in a number of different ways. So once I'm done with this, once I've added the different topics from textbooks, again, you'll have more options here with the topics from a topic list as well within the coming months. Once I'm done here, once I've kind of added all of the topics to my lessons, I would then click Done with Setup. And excuse me for jumping again to a different page, but I will then be basically placed back into the workflow onto this Curate page, where then I would be able to click the Find Content, and now the content that would be available to me would be based on the topics that I included in those lessons. Just as a note, you can certainly go back. For those of you who are familiar with using learning objectives, for example, this new workflow still enables that. It just would happen after you finish setting up the course structure. You could always go back and add details. You can share your course with colleagues. Again, you can add learning objectives here as well. So essentially, we've just kind of given another option for you to create courses, hopefully streamlining the process a little bit for those of you who are trying to quickly get into your available resources on this Curate page. So that really kind of encapsulates the gist of the new updates that we have coming shortly. I will go ahead and turn it back over to Liz to facilitate any questions, and if there's any part of the workflow that you would like to see again, please let me know. I'm more than happy to go back into the workflow and demonstrate anything else if you'd like to see it again.
Great. It looks like we have a question from Carl, and that is, are these textbooks accessed from OER sources?
No. So these are current commercial textbooks that we have basically crawled the internet to find some information about these textbooks. For example, these might be textbooks that users or faculty are currently using in their courses but are interested in transitioning to OER. So we include these materials to provide opportunities for users to basically take something that they're familiar with in terms of a commercial text and then find alternate materials in the OER universe.
Great, okay. Carl, let us know if that didn't answer your question and we can follow up. Any other question? I'll just remind you, we're also are happy to get any feedback. So if you think it looks great or terrible, we hope it's not the latter. Just feel free to chime in with that feedback as well. Like I mentioned, it's very important for us that we are continuously asking for our clients' feedback and making sure that we're building something that's going to work well for you. And Carl, thinks it makes sense, yes. And Donna has a clarification on the textbooks. So we are not using the text, just the topics in the text.
Correct. So similar to provide a little bit more background, again, these are commercial textbooks. So these are from all of your, familiar publishing companies and publishing houses. And so we do not have access to the content because it is commercial. It is something that a student or a faculty member would generally have to pay for. So all we're basically doing is we're pulling in what we know about the textbook, so the chapters themselves, the topics associated with those chapters, to help provide some other ways for you all, to, as you're creating your courses, to find and basically tell our system what to search for. So if you're already using a textbook and you want to search for content based on that information, this is a nice way that, like I said, hopefully will help the transition from commercial to OER materials, help facilitate that transition a little bit more smoothly. But again, it is not the content of the text, it is simply the topics that we are utilizing.
Good. This is a good feature. We like the changes, more flexibility. Looks like we have another question from Carl. And then some feedback from Leslie. So, have you ever built an example from start to finish that shows how to build out a complete course using the guided approach? It would be wonderful to have that in a video so we could go back and review a course build step by step.
That is fantastic, and I am making a mental and physical note of that as we speak. What you're seeing right now is truly just a prototype, so there's things that I can't even click on here, but once this goes live, we can absolutely record a video about going from kind of the very beginning of starting a course from the scratch using this to the final product. So we will definitely, like I said, that will definitely be something we're working on. I will say we won't be able to do it quite yet because we don't have access to the live platform, but as soon as this does go live, we will work quickly to get this up and running. We'll post it on the support site, and hopefully we'll be able to include that in our release notes that we send out as well.
Great. Okay. Let's see. Got a couple other. Okay. Leslie, I do not feel that I am able to use the search function to ID the best resources available. What can I do to perfect my search skills?
So I wish I could talk to you directly here, and this may be a side conversation, and I'm more than happy to reach back out. So is this pertaining to the search functionality in the current, if it's pertaining to the search functionality in the current platform, there's a number of different ways that we can help support the search functionality, because I'll be honest, sometimes I run into a few snags as well. I think what would be best is if I am able, hopefully Liz, if you could copy down contact or information, I can definitely look you up and I will reach out to you separately, and we can talk about how to better utilize the search functionality. As a general rule of thumb, the filters make for a great resource to kind of narrow down. So my best practice is I generally try to start pretty broad, and then I will narrow things down using the search functionalities and the filter functionalities on the search page. So, but I do want to touch base with you directly because, again, we want to make sure that this is effective and efficient for you. So, like I said, I will be more than happy to touch base with you after this call to figure out what we can do to improve your user experience with searching.
Great, and yes, I can certainly put you guys connect you guys. Looks like, and she was referring to the current platform.
Okay.
Looks like Daniel has a couple questions here. Does the system work the same for books that we subscribe to in our libraries? In effect, can we download our ebooks to do the same thing and actually have content added to the course?
That's a really good question, and one that I do not know the answer to off the top of my head. So I think what you're asking is, for example, are like OpenStax textbooks available within this within this kind of listing of textbooks. And I will be totally honest, I do not have an answer for that, but I will find out, and we'll definitely confirm that with you and with the group when I find the answer. However, they are certainly available once you are searching through content. So I'm actually going to jump over to another tab here real quick, and I'm going to go to Explore. Let me do statistics. So again, you can certainly narrow things down. Sorry for the scrolling here. Once you're down here by sources or types. So if you were looking specifically for ebooks, you can click this ebook option, and that will narrow things down. But I totally, like I said, I think it's a great question to ask. Sorry again to jump back to see if resources, open resources are available from this. And again, we will confirm that with you as soon as we have the answer from our product team.
I actually do. I have a secret product team member who chatted me a little bit of context on this question. So yes, the OER and the library will be in there if your institution has included it in the library. So the textbook workflow will use the commercial textbook and map it to the OER and library ebooks. So we can definitely follow up and give you more detail on that, but it does look like yes. Okay, great. Okay, any other questions? Let me double check the chat to make sure. It looks like most people are using questions. Well, just a question on timing. Will there be another release after this release? And if so, do we know when we can expect it?
Yes, great question. So yes, this is kind of an ever-evolving process at the moment. So again, this release is slated for early November. We do anticipate another release, I would expect either late November or early December, particularly to release some of these other features where we're copying topics and content from existing collections or courses, as well as the topics list. So this is kind of the phase one of this guided workflow process. So it will be live and it will be functioning. Full functionality will likely hit our live platforms later in November or early December, at which point we were hoping to update all of our materials on our support site to reflect some of this new user interface.
And I can answer too. In general, we do about a release once a month, and we try and do it either at the beginning or the end of the month. So this one's going to be at the beginning of November. We always try and notify the exact date as soon as we have it, and of course we send the release notes after. I would say this release is one of our more significant ones, so I wouldn't, we're going to definitely have more releases as we continuously improve. This one in particular is, fairly significant, as you can, as Bryden has showcased. Okay, great. Well, I think I'll give you guys another couple minutes to chat in some questions while I just do some concluding housekeeping items. So again, we did record the session and we will send you the recording shortly. We'll also follow up with Leslie and Daniel with some clarifications on their question, and if we find that information to be what we think would be relevant for you guys, we'll of course share it with you as well. We are repeating this webinar on Thursday at 3 o'clock Central. So if you, want to see it again, feel free to join us. Or if you think that, your colleague or, someone else on in your institution would want to view this content or would like to ask any other questions or give their feedback, again, please feel free to register for it or pass this invitation along. We really appreciate you spending your morning, or as Bryden mentioned, afternoon, with us, depending on your time zone. And I think unless there's anything else, we can go ahead and end.
Great. Awesome. Thanks so much, Liz. Again, thank you all. Absolutely, it was a pleasure. And again, feel free to reach out to our support alias if any other questions do come up in the meantime. It's just support@intelluslearning.com. You'll likely hear back from me directly. We'd love to continue this conversation in any ways that we can. Again, all of these changes are based on user feedback from folks like yourself, and we really want to make sure that this is something that can be useful and exciting and engaging for both you and your students. So please let us know. Keep the feedback coming.
Awesome. All right. Everyone have a good rest of your day. Thank you.